بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على النبي الأمي برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we were discussing Hazrat Khalid bin Sa'id radiallahu anhu, and towards the end of his life, it was during his last expedition, he just wedded Hakim radiallahu anha. Let's understand the situation. Hakim bint al-Harith bin Hisham al-Qurashiyya al-Makhzumiyya radiallahu anha. She was the wife of Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu, the great Sahabi Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu, who we will be discussing today. Ikrimah radiallahu anhu's wife was Hakim radiallahu anha. But on this occasion, Hazrat Ikrimah just left this world before this in the battle called Yarmouk. And Harith bin Hisham, who was the father of Hakim radiallahu anha, he also passed away in the same expedition. So that is Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu's father-in-law. So during the battle of Yarmouk, the three of them, Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu, Ayyash bin Abi, Hazrat Ayyash radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Harith bin Hisham radiallahu anhu, the brother of Abu Jahl bin Hisham. So this is the uncle of Ikrimah and his father-in-law. The three of them were lying, and they were in this battle, they were badly injured. What happened then was, Hazrat Harith asked for some water. When it was presented to him, he sees his Sati, his son-in-law, his nephew also wanted water. So he says to the person bringing the water, please pass it to him first. When they brought it near Ikrimah, just then Hazrat Ayyash, who is Abu Jahl's other brother, look how Allah gives hidayat, and Hazrat Harith's brother. So Hazrat Ikrimah begged, give it to him first. When they presented it to Hazrat Ayyash radiallahu anhu, he had already departed from this transitory world. Then they rushed to Hazrat Ikrimah, he also passed away. Then they rushed to Hazrat Harith radiallahu anhu, he also had just left this world. Look at Sahaba radiallahu anhum, their life they gave for Allah's deen. Even on their deathbeds, they preferred others over themselves. Ye Sahaba, radiallahu anhum. Anyway, this was his wife, Hakim bint al-Harith radiallahu anha. She lost her husband and she lost her father. She had lost her father radiallahu ta'ala anhu in this previous expedition. Now comes the battle called Marjus Suffar. This was an area not far from Damascus. And just there, after her iddat, Hazrat Khalid bin Sa'id radiallahu anhu proposed for her. This was the sunnat, and this was how Sahaba radiallahu anhum would take care of others. A man left this world, his wife would be there in this dunya with children who would take care of them. Sahaba radiallahu anhum would help them financially and would also wed them to take care of them. Anyway, he just wedded Hakim radiallahu anha, and the nikah was done. Anyway, he wanted to spend time with his wife and in seclusion to consummate his marriage. And then she says to him, "O Khalid," now this is Khalid bin Sa'id radiallahu anhu, "O Khalid, I wish you postpone this matter for a little while, because there's such a severe battle that we are about to be entering into. The severe battle where the Romans have rallied so many men, and now we have to fight back. What do you feel? Can we postpone it for a while?" He said, "My heart tells me that I'm going to leave this world in this expedition." So she agreed to his request, and the couple consummated that marriage. The next morning, just after their first night together, he just fed everyone the food of walima. And as soon as they completed their meal, the Romans had rallied in huge numbers. One of them comes forth and he demands a duel. This was how the battles would start. A Mubariz, Halmim Mubariz. Habib bin Salama comes forth and he defeats the Roman. Just then another man comes forth from the Roman side, and Hazrat Khalid bin Sa'id is chosen to go forward. He goes forward, and the two fight valiantly, very, very bravely. Watasawala, watajawala, fighting, attacking, challenging. And then they came to a point where the fight was tied until towards the end. سَدَّدَ كُلٌّ مِّنْهُمَا لِصَاحِبِهِ ضَرْبَةً قَاتِلَةً. Each one found a fatal blow on the other, where each one struck the other at the opportune moment. But what happened was that the Roman sword struck, and Hazrat Khalid radiallahu anhu's sword just missed his target. and it caused his shahada. That means he became shaheed. Anyway, as the battle continued, the Romans fought and conquered and defeated at first, until Allah Ta'ala made the scales change, where even the women folk from behind came forth, like Hakim radiallahu anha, like a lioness. She tied her clothes properly, making sure she's fully in hijab, that nothing comes off from her. And she took a weapon available to her. At that time, it was a peg. She took a huge peg, from the peg in which saw the first night with her husband. She took that peg and she plunged into the battle. And with that same peg, she dropped down 7 of the Romans. And she kept on until Allah Ta'ala gave the Muslims victory in this battle called Marjus Suffar. But the price of this great victory was that many, many souls departed from this world and returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ruh of Khalid radiallahu anhu also left this world, and it departed from this transitory world. The man who killed him saw with his own eyes nur emanate from this Sahabi's body. And this brightness left his body and climbed up very high in the sky. And just then, this man who was a Roman regretted killing this Sahabi, and that became the means of his hidayat. Look at Sahaba. In their life they made ikram, on their deathbeds they gave ikram and made ikram and preferred others over themselves. In their lives they made sacrifice for hidayat, and as they left this world also, their deaths became the means of the hidayat of the ummah. See, Hazrat Haram radiallahu anhu leaves this world, and the man who killed him, Jabbar, was so affected by that. Went to ask Sahaba. Sahaba taught him. He embraced Islam. Hazrat Qutham bin Abbas radiallahu anhu in Uzbekistan, the king who kills him, was so touched by this Sahabi radiallahu anhu, who later on then embraces Islam. So Sahaba gave everything for Allah's deen. Their lives was for Allah. And when they left this world, their deaths and their martyrdom was the means of the hidayat of the ummah. Allah give us tawfiq. Alhamdulillah, we just completed the discussion of Hazrat Khalid bin Sa'id radiallahu anhu. And we mentioned towards the end his wife Hakim radiallahu anha, who he just wedded and then left this world. But who was she wedded to before that, prior to that? None other than Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu. Who was he? What happened to him? How did he come to Islam? He was approximately 30 when Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam invited to Allah, called to the truth. He came from a noble family. He was the like of Hazrat Sa'ad radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Mus'ab radiallahu anhu, as far as lineage is concerned, as far as family background is concerned. And he was close to them in friendship. He should have embraced Islam. But what happened was, his father was a great hindrance to him, because his father was the biggest enemy of Islam. His father is known as none other than the famous Abu Jahl, the man who was the Fir'aun of this ummah. Even Fir'aun, as he was drowning, regretted at that time and tried to recite the kalima. But Allah Ta'ala didn't accept it. It was too late. Because to change at the last stage is unacceptable. That time his soul was departing from his body. He couldn't even utter the kalima. The verse of Quran mentions, after A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Al-ana wa qad asayta qablu wa kunta minal mufsideen. Now you want to embrace? Now you want to embrace? When all your life you defied and refused? You were corrupt, from those who were corrupt and caused corruption on this earth. فَلِيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ. Now we will preserve your body as a lesson and a sign, so that humanity after you can repent. Now, Fir'aun on his dying bed tried to embrace the kalima. But Abu Jahl, as he was defeated by the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, mind you, young Sahaba, Hazrat Mu'adh and Mu'awwaz, these great Sahaba, whose mother was such a great woman, Hazrat Afra radiallahu anha. She was the mother of 7 Badri Sahaba. One mother 7 children, and all her children were veterans of Badr. What a noble woman. What a woman that every one of us should emulate. Allah chose her children to bring down Abu Jahl. He was on his deathbed. And then Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sent Sahaba to find him. And Hazrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud, among the Sahaba, every Sahabi was humble. But he was a symbol of humility. So humble. Hazrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, and one of the greatest scholars, and the faqih of this ummah. He finds Abu Jahl, and he is about to sever the head of Abu Jahl. He stands on the chest of Abu Jahl, and Abu Jahl arrogantly says to him, that you know, O little shepherd, Ya Ruway'i al-Ghanam, you're standing on a very, very lofty pedestal. At that time also, he's dying, and he's so arrogant. So Hazrat Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu tells him words of disgrace. Then Abu Jahl says, who won? He says, obviously, victory belongs to Allah Ta'ala and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the believers. Then Abu Jahl says, when you sever me, sever my head with my sword, and make sure you sever me properly, clearly. So even after I die, my face must be revered and looked up to. This was his haughtiness. So obviously, hopeful that he changed, but even at that moment he was not prepared to change. And he says to Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, tell Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that my hatred for Islam and for his cause was all my life. Now it's even more. So the Fir'aun of this ummah is even worse. Is even worse. So Hazrat Ikrimah radiyallahu anhu, in his initial stages, he had to support his father. Because his father was against Islam, torturing Muslims. And he was his father's right-hand man. And now that his father had died during Uhud, Ikrimah felt obliged, madfu'an bihukmi za'amati abi, due to his father's position, due to his father's status, he felt that he was driven away from Islam due to his father's position. So at first, because of his father, he had to fight Islam. And he had hostility towards the deen. And he harmed Sahaba radiallahu anhum. And he tortured Muslims. Now when on his father's death, he felt obliged that he has to do the same thing. So at first he would fight against the truth out of pride and haughtiness for his father's sake. And now he finds himself in a position that he has to be hostile towards deen out of vengeance for his father, to take revenge on behalf of his father. And this is why him and many others had undertaken a severe cause, a cause that is impossible, because Islam is Allah's. And he now led the people and pushed and drove the people towards the other expeditions, namely Uhud and Khandaq. And all along with him was the support of his wife Hakim, and together they would fight against the cause of Islam. Even in Khandaq, during the expedition called Khandaq, where the mushrikeen had rallied all the powers of Arabia to siege the Muslims and destroy Islam right from the root. They wanted to uproot Islam from the center, from the Markaz, which was Medina Munawwara. And whilst waiting outside the trench, because they were shocked by the amazing trench that was unknown to the Arabs, they found themselves in a situation where they had to siege Medina Munawwara. So they awaited the Muslims outside the trench. Not many could muster up the courage to cross. But among the few who had a different motive and ambition, and his ambition and the level of his ambition was very, very severe. That was Ikrimah. He plunged his horse and jumped over the trench. Now imagine this trench, how huge it was. 5 meters wide at places, 7 meters wide at other places. Galloping with his horse, plunging through such a trench. On the other side were Muslims defending Medina Munawwara. This is something very, very difficult. A few could make it through, but those few who made it on the other side would be finished off by the Muslims. So the others would not muster up such courage. But Ikrimah, with others like Amr bin Abdi Wud, who was also a giant at that time, who tried to take on the Muslims in a duel, and Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu came forth and finished him off, taking Allah's name with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ikrimah saw this. He was now instilled with fear, and he ran away with a few others. Then comes the occasion of Fath Makkah, where alhamdulillah the Muslims came marching to Makkah Mukarramah to conquer. Islam had spread far and wide. Many of the Meccans had already embraced Islam. Prior to that, Hazrat Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, who was a close associate of Ikrimah, they were very close in their childhood and in their efforts against Islam. But it was after Umratul Qada, when Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left a message for Hazrat Khalid. And Hazrat Khalid radiallahu anhu's brother Walid bin Walid wrote letters to him, explaining to him with a lot of love, "Oh my brother, why are you losing out?" Anyway, it was very clear to Khalid that the truth is with the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Khalid confides in his close friend Ikrimah. Ikrimah gets worried. "You are thinking of Islam. Don't do such a thing. Don't do such a thing." So Ikrimah then rallies the other remaining seniors of Makkah, and they gather that night to consult what to do. This is what Khalid is planning. So they spoke to Khalid, "How can you think of such a thing?" Khalid says, "It's the truth." And it was very quick that the seniors of Makkah at that time were ready to unsheathe their swords to put an end to Khalid, because they couldn't bear a man like Khalid to join the Muslims. Ikrimah tells them, "I didn't gather y'all to kill him. What is wrong with y'all?" Hazrat Khalid realized things are going too far. So he then said to them, "Okay, I will listen to what y'all are saying. Y'all are saying not now. Let's think it over. I will reconsider." So they felt satisfied that at least Khalid won't leave and won't go to embrace Islam until further discussions. So they sheathed their swords again and returned home. Hazrat Khalid goes to his home and he realizes that these people are not yet ready to understand. He prepared himself and he departed without saying anything to anybody. And en route, Allah Ta'ala blessed him with company like Hazrat Amr bin As radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Uthman bin Khalid radiallahu anhu. They meet on the way and they go to Medina Munawwara. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam sees them and was so happy that he saw them, and Allah's Nabi said, "Laqad alqat ilaykum Makkatu aflada kabidiha." Makkah has now given you its jigar and its heart and its kaleji, meaning people from the noblest of families of Makkah Mukarramah are now coming to embrace Islam. But Ikrimah was not yet ready. When it came to Fath Makkah, the Meccans had decided that the Muslims are too powerful. Islam is too great. Now we can't fight back. In spite of the Meccans deciding in their consultation that we're not going to fight back, we're going to let Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam enter Makkah in peace, still Ikrimah could not bear it. Ikrimah and a few others like Safwan bin Umayyah, still contrary to the decision of Quraysh, contrary to the unanimous decision of Quraysh, they prepared their contingent and their division, and they darted against the Muslims. But with the help of Allah Ta'ala, that troop which they attacked, alhamdulillah, defeated them with the help of Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala. And Khalid and Ikrimah and his men were then routed and conquered. And now Ikrimah was in shock that all his life he left no stone unturned, except that he lifted it to destroy Islam. But there's nothing he could do, because the more efforts he made, the more sacrifice he gave towards his cause and his father's cause, he found that Islam is too powerful. He didn't know what to do. He thought to himself, "I did too much. I went too far. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will never forgive me." That night, he didn't even go by the Kaaba. He escaped in the dead of night, under the wing of darkness. He said, "I will run anywhere, but it's not possible that any human can forgive such crimes. Crimes like mine, my entire life was to destroy the cause of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he will forgive me? Never, impossible." He ran from Makkah. He was out. He was gone. But little did he realize that the man who he felt will never forgive is the greatest human, is the greatest of Allah's creation. From all the creation of Allah, He is the most merciful. From all the creation of Allah, He is the most kind, compassionate, loving and forgiving. Anyway, he had left. Just then, Hind, who later became radiallahu anha, the mother of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, the wife of Hazrat Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, she came with other women folk from Makkah. Amongst them was Hakim bint al-Harith radiallahu anha. She also came, and they came to meet the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And afterwards, when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam realized that Hind was there, and it was Hind who was responsible for the shahadat of Hazrat Hamza radiallahu anhu in certain ways. When Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw who it was, He still forgave them. He still welcomed them. Hazrat Hakim saw this, because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam's wives were there, Fatima radiallahu anha were there, Ummahatul Mu'mineen were there, radiallahu anhun, and other sahabiyat were there to welcome these newcomers. And when they saw, like Hakim saw the mercy in the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and how kindly did Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam respond to Hind, who did so much, she felt in her heart that definitely Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam will give a chance to my husband. She got up and she said, O Nabi of Allah, I am also embracing Islam. O Nabi of Allah, my husband Ikrimah, he has fled. He's gone. Where did he go? He's gone to Yemen. Why did he go? He's worried that you'll never give him a chance. You'll never give him amnesty after what he did. Allah's Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Huwa amin. I give him amnesty. Nobody can touch him. He's free from any harm. Ya Allah, what rahmat, what mercy. To those who spent their entire lives to destroy his cause, who tortured him and his Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the forerunners in the cause of destroying Islam, Allah's Nabi would forgive them, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allah's Nabi's efforts were so great, that the worst of people became the best of people. Such rahmah, such akhlaq. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave everyone a chance. She departed from Makkah immediately. She took her slave. He was a male. He was a Roman slave that they had purchased, herself and her husband. So she needed the company, and she had to rush towards the port in Jeddah. En route towards the direction of Jeddah, where the port laid. With her slave, he tried to seduce her, and then he started becoming forceful. So she actually tried to put him off, but he wasn't prepared to agree. And then she said, okay, let's see the next town. When they get to the next town, she notified people from there that I am Ikrimah's wife, and this is what this man tried to do to me. They captured this individual, tied him up, and she carried on her own, adamant that she wanted to rescue her husband, to save him and bring him to Iman. This was why Hazrat Hakim undertook this journey. She wants to save her husband from Jahannam. Allah give every one of us tawfiq. Even the Sahabiyat had such fikr. Allah give us some fikr for humanity's hidayat. As she was going, before she arrived, he had embarked on the ship. And as they had embarked, they were departing. And the winds became severe. There were whirlwinds, and there was a severe storm. And the storm had become very, very dangerous. The captain of the ship gets up and tells everyone, turn to Allah, akhlisu. Turn to Allah sincerely. Turn to Allah sincerely. Allah is going to help us. Allama Alusi rahimahullah brings this incident, this part of the incident, under the verses وَإِذَا غَشِيَهُمْ مَوْجٌ كَالظُّلَلِ دَعَوُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. Under these verses, he brings this incident. So the captain is telling them, turn to Allah, turn to Allah. But the word he used was akhlis. Hazrat Ikrimah asked, Kayfa ukhlis? What is this bring ikhlas, utter words of ikhlas? So the captain says, what I am telling you is to say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ikrimah says, Ma harabtu illa min hada. I am running away from this, and this is what you're calling me to. One point we learn here, respected lovers of Sahaba radiallahu anhum, in Sahaba's time, every male was an inviter to Allah, every female was an inviter to Allah. Da'iyah. Every youngster was an inviter to Allah. Every young boy, young girl, old man, old woman. Everyone was an inviter to Allah. Even the captain on the ship. Even the captain on the ship was an inviter to Allah. The captain is telling the people, turn to Allah. This is the job and the duty of the ummah of Muhammad ﷺ. That so much of da'wat and so much of effort towards Iman, that even the enemies became the best of people because of the level of the effort of Sahaba radiallahu anhu. He says, I'm running away from this and this is what you call me to? So they explaining to him, this is the only thing that's going to help us. Ikrimah was touched. He said, if it is Allah who's going to help us in the ocean and at sea, that means it's only Allah to help us on dry land. Definitely. It must be true. And just then Allah made it. إِذْ أَقْبَلَتْ أُمُّ حَكِيمٍ عَلَىٰ إِكْرِمَةٍ. Hazrat Hakim radiallahu anha arrived. And from the distance, she's waving a cloth, calling him. And he was already in the ship. So she's calling him from a distance. Yabna Am, Yabna Am, my cousin, my cousin. She was his cousin also. But this was how they would refer to their husbands as well. But she was his cousin also. How was she his cousin? Is Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu's father Abu Jahl and her father Hazrat Harith bin Hisham radiallahu anhu were brothers. So she was the cousin of him and he was her cousin as well. So Yabna Am, I've come to you from the best of people. جئتك من عند أوصل الناس وأبر الناس وخير الناس. Anyway, as she's calling him, he then says to the captain, you know what, I'm not going to carry on with this journey. Can you send me back? He agrees and he sends Hazrat Ikrimah back. When he sees his wife, she says, I've come to you from the best of people. One who joins ties with everyone. Despite them breaking ties, he joins ties. Despite people harming him, he's kind to them. Despite people insulting him, he honors them, helps them, assists them, and loves them. I've come to you from none other than Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says to her, you met Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you spoke to him? He says, yes, I've spoken to him, she says. وَقَدْ اسْتَأْمَنْتُ لَكَ. I've asked him, O Nabi of Allah, would you give amnesty to my husband? He said, of course. You spoke to him? Yes, I have spoken to him. You're sure? He couldn't believe it. That someone who was harmed so much by me is prepared to give me security and amnesty. She reassured him because he couldn't believe that one can be so kind, that any person can be so compassionate and so forgiving. And then finally he agreed and he returns with her. As they're traveling together, she mentioned to him that this is what had happened. This is what your slave tried to do. He said, show me which town you passed. And he goes there and he sees the slave and he killed him. That was just before he embraced Islam. So he kills him because he couldn't bear someone do such a thing with his wife. And as they were en route, they stopped at a certain point to rest. And there he wanted to be in seclusion with his wife. أراد عكرمة أن يخلو بزوجته. She refused. She said, never. He said, how come? She says, I am a Muslim. You still a mushrik. He was astonished. He was gripped by astonishment. He said, is it Islam that bars me from being in seclusion with you? She says, it is Islam. I cannot be with you. Anyway, as Hazrat Ikrimah then arrives towards Makkah Mukarramah, Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions to Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, oh my Sahaba, sayatikum Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl. Ikrimah is going to come. Ikrimah is going to be coming to you. Mu'minan, muhajiran, with iman and striving in Allah's way. Fala tasubbu abah. Welcome him. Do not be vulgar in regards to his father. Do not refer to his father in a derogatory manner. Subhanallah. What wrong didn't his father do? But Allah's Nabi is saying, why speak about one who has passed and gone to his abode already, even though it may be hell, when it could hurt someone of his relatives who's still alive? Ya akhlaq, فَإِنَّ سَبَّ الْمَيِّتِ يُؤْذِي الْحَيِّ وَلَا يَبْلُغُ الْمَيِّتِ. You're going to be derogatory or vulgar regarding someone who's dead and gone already. It's going to hurt his living son. It's going to hurt his living son. This is akhlaq. The akhlaq of Janabi Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Allah forgive us. Today we say so many things, and we hurt so many hearts, and we disappoint so many people. We don't think, and we just utter. Allah forgive us. Allah forgive us. Let's think before we utter. Let's verify before we amplify. Let's think properly. Sometimes something is true, but how do we say it? That's also something that we have to think about. We have to say the right thing in the right manner to the correct person. Sometimes we say what is right, but we distance the person from Allah. We have to say the right thing with wisdom. When Quran speaks of da'wat and encouragement of people, to encourage people to do good, Quran says, Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah. Invite to the cause of your Lord, to the path of your Lord, with wisdom, wal maw'izatil hasanah, and good advice and admonishment. Wajadilhum billati hiya ahsan. And if you have to debate with someone, dialogue with someone, do it in a amicable manner, a suitable manner, a beautiful manner. Finally, Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu arrived. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam got up quickly to welcome him. With a smiling face, Allah's Nabi said, Marhaban bil raqibil muhajir. Welcome with the rider who's a muhajir, one who goes and moves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In one report of Tirmidhi Sharif, Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Sahaba, call him Ikrimah. Don't attribute him to Abu Jahl. It'll just hurt him more. Look at kindness, look at akhlaq, look at mercy, look at compassion. From that day onward, he gave his life in the way of Allah. He strove in the path of Allah Ta'ala all his life. And he would read the Quran Kareem day and night. And he would learn, and he would try to catch up. Look at Sahaba radiallahu anhum. These were elderly men, but they would take out all their time for Allah. They never were shy to learn. Why do we have to feel shy? Because we do not want to learn. Allah forgive us. Our deen should prompt us to improve. We must want to get better and better in our deen. Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu would read the Quran Kareem, and he would place the Quran Kareem on his head with utmost respect, and he would say, Kalamu Rabbi, Kalamu Rabbi. This is the book of my Lord. This is the legislation of my Lord. These are the rules of my Lord. With love and respect he would show to Kalamullah Azza wa Jal. Allah give us tawfiq to respect Quran. When Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam left this world as well, he presented himself to serve the deen of Allah. He was sent by Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu against the Murtaddeen, to bring the Murtaddeen back to Islam. He made great sacrifices. From there he was ready for more tasks for deen, and he traveled to Sham. And even in Sham, it was the battle of Yarmouk, when Muslims were suffering so many setbacks. Muslims were 40,000 and the Romans were 250,000. There were so many losses. The battle continued for almost 4 days or more, according to different reports. And Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu realized that I have to strive further. And he was so hard on himself, without any rest, striving in Allah's way. They said to him, be careful, be kind, be merciful to yourself. He says, you telling me to hold back? When all my life I was deprived of this, how can I ever hold back? How can I run away from the Romans today? That will never ever happen. I will give my life for Allah's deen. And he announced among the Muslims, May yubaya' al maut, who will take bay'ah, this pledge of allegiance with me, and together we'll strive for Allah's sake till our dying days and breaths. His uncle Hazrat Harith bin Hisham, also his father-in-law, and Hazrat Dirar bin Azwar, famous Hazrat Dirar bin Azwar, the great warrior for Allah's deen, the man who never feared, the man who didn't even need armor. Dirar bin Azwar radiallahu anhu, very close to Hazrat Khalid radiallahu anhu. Anyway, 400 of them went forth and defended and fought so bravely and valiantly until, alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah Ta'ala, Allah gave the Muslims victory. By the end of that day, so many Muslims were wounded. Thousands were shaheed. Amongst them, lying there on the battlefield of Yarmouk, was Hazrat Harith radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Ayyash radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu. Someone on khidmah brings for Hazrat Harith radiallahu anhu water and he sees Hazrat Ikrimah, he says, please take the water to him. As Hazrat Ikrimah receives the water, he sees Hazrat Ayyash radiallahu anhu. He says, please take the water to him. As they come to Hazrat Ayyash, he had left this world to Jannat already. As they rushed to Hazrat Ikrimah, he had already departed. As they left to Hazrat Harith, he had also departed from this world. Look at Sahaba. At that time when one's thirst is the most severe, Sahaba made ikram. Let us learn this quality of ikram. Let us give for others. What we give for others, what we give for Allah's sake, that's what will benefit us in the hereafter. So let's prioritize the hereafter. Let's sacrifice for akhirah. Let's remember that we are sent to this world for the hereafter. As Luqman Hakim wisely said, rahimahullah, اعمل لدنياك بقدر بقائك فيها. Strive for the world according to the extent of your residence in it. How long you would last here, which is very short. The span is very short. وَعْمَلْ لِأُخْرَاكَ بِقَدْرِ مَقَامِكَ فِيهَا. And exert yourself and aspire and make effort for the hereafter to the extent of your everlasting residence there. Meaning compare your life of this world to the lengthy life of the hereafter. And that's how you calculate your time and make your time management. And remember that akhirat is the goal and it is everlasting. So let us sacrifice our time, our wealth, our honor, our everything for Allah and for the hereafter. Look at Hazrat Hakim radiallahu anha. Look at Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu. What great sacrifices they made for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us play our part. Let us do our duty. One interesting incident as we depart from Hazrat Ikrimah radiallahu anhu, and we will explain this further. It was a dream the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was astonished that he said, I saw a cluster of dates belonging to Abu Jahl in Jannah. And Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Hazrat Ikrimah embraced Islam, he said to Hazrat Salama radiallahu anha, this is what it meant. Actually, the sciences of dreams is a very interesting science. It has a lot of spirituality, knowledge and understanding of the lugha, the Arabic language, and every detail in dreams is very, very important. Many a time the son refers to the father refers to the son, like in this case. It was seen Hazrat Attab bin Usayd radiallahu anhu, that his father will be governing Makkah Mukarramah. But actually it was his son, Hazrat Attab radiallahu anhu. So likewise, Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the best amongst the Sahabar radiallahu anhum. Many Sahaba used to come to him for the interpretation of the dreams because he learnt it from Janabi Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will discuss further. Allah give us tawfiq to strive for His deen, to sacrifice for His deen, to spread His deen, to invest in the hereafter, and to prioritize the afterlife. And Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to treat humanity with character. May Allah give us tawfiq to share this beautiful deen with the whole of humanity. Let's read 3 quls for Hazrat Hakim and Hazrat Ikrimah radiyallahu anhuma and all the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyil ummi bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.